time in the gym, I don't know. It's got to be at least a month or two since I've actually gone to the gym. I have been getting in exercise home and outside, but it's really good to go to the gym. I've been doing kind of a bare minimum when it comes to my fitness. I know what the bare minimum is for me, and I've been doing that, unfortunately, but things aren't changing for me in terms of physically. So, in order for me to make that happen, I have to work harder. It involves working smarter, more days, and giving more effort than previously. Anyways, I posted last week about this conversation that I had with my long-term PCP of almost 20 years. Yeah, he started seeing me, I think, 2006. We're 2024, so he's known me close to half my life. When I was, 18, probably when I first saw him, 18 or 19, something like that. And the conversation I was having with him, if y'all weren't there for that, was that I was talking about how I now can relate to him being in the social work field. I can relate to some of what he experiences as a general physician. I'm not doing the diagnoses and I'm not a doctor, but it's just that now I'm in a patient-facing position, and not patient-facing in a sense of how I was as a peer counselor, where I'm seeing them outside of the hospital setting and I'm just talking to them about their mental health issues. Now I'm on the front line, seeing them in the hospital, seeing them at the doctor's offices, speaking with their insurance companies, and all this fun stuff that doctors sometimes have to do as well. So I went into the doctor's office, and the funny thing is the doctor's office is always, aside from probably immediate family and maybe a few close friends, the doctor's office is always the first to know when I change a job, because I have to provide them with my insurance, my new insurance, before I go in. So I went back to schedule my physical. I did my annual physical last week, and then I went to the front desk because his wife works with him at the office as the secretary. And I was like, well, I got a new insurance. And she was like, you switched jobs again? I was like, yep, I switched jobs again. And she said, well, that's just the way of y'all generation. Like, that's what my grandson and my granddaughter have been doing. They'll be at a job for like 2-3 months, and then they'll switch jobs and move on to another one. And I told her, I am somewhat a part of that generation, but that is not what I was raised on. I was raised on, you get into that job, you stick with that job, you start from the bottom, maybe you transfer once or twice, not transfer, but maybe you leave your first job or your second job, and then maybe you find a groove when you get into your third job. And then you stick out with that one no matter what's happening at that job. You stick out and stick it through to the end. And when I first started work, that was actually my intent. I think people don't really realize how long my job history actually is. I'm not saying I've been working enough to reach like a retirement age, a standard traditional retirement age. Definitely not. But I'm closing in on 20 years of work history. 20 years, that's a lot. And in that 20 years, I know the first job that I did after college, well, I had a couple of options, and the options were disappointing and underwhelming for me. I still remember them vividly because I came out with my business degree thinking, oh, I got a business degree, so that's automatically going to push me ahead of all the people who don't have degrees. I came out and the typical, what's your experience as a business manager? And I'm like, I don't have any. Okay, well, we have this minimum wage or slightly above minimum wage management trainee position available for you. In New York City, where I was living when I first finished school, minimum wage was, I think, I want to say $7.25 an hour. I was getting jobs that, with my degree, I was getting job offers of jobs that would pay me $8.50. And I'm sitting here and I'm like, listen, the math ain't mathing, people, because if I spent 4 years and $25,000 to $30,000 a year on my college education, how am I coming out and getting offers for jobs that would give me like maybe 20,000? I don't have the math queued up in my head right now, but maybe low 20s or high teens per year annually in salary. So I was like, I'm not doing that. And I remember I did this factory job, which offered me maybe $10, $11 an hour. Instead, I opted to do that instead of pencil pushing in an office. I just refused to do the pencil pushing in the office. So I did the factory job. I did a couple of factory jobs because they were easy to get. They were higher paying. They were also high demand physically. And I've gone through that whole story of injuries that I have to live with for the rest of my life. How it sparked up my anxiety disorder for the first time. So I'm not even going to get too much into that part. But my first professional job after that whole debacle was peer counselor. I was working part-time as a peer counselor. And at that point in time, I was a little more humble. And I said, I'll take this job. It was a minimum wage job as a peer counselor. I was only working, 5-6 hours a week, something like that. Then it went up to 10 hours a week. Then it was like 10 to 15 hours a week, kind of variable. Then in 2018, I got into an office job full-time as a peer counselor, which I thought might be my last job, in terms of I really did have intent or a thought that I was going to stick into the job for however many years it took for me to build a retirement. That lasted 6 months. The reason that lasted 6 months, I was given job responsibilities when I first got into the job. These are your expectations. This stuff was in writing and this stuff was told to me verbally. Good afternoon, Colleen. Since you would be wanting to know, I'm at 10,900 steps. So these are bonus steps at this point. Anyways, I got everything that I was supposed to do for the job outlined to me at the beginning, as most companies do or are supposed to do. Just for argument's sake, because I know I'm not going to remember everything off the top of my head, but they said to me something like, we want you to see 40 clients a month and 40 clients a week. I'm sorry, not a month. I wish it was 40 a month. 40 clients a week, which would entail about 8 visits. 8 times 5 is 40. Yeah, about 8 visits a day. 8 clients seeing me per day in the office. So I said, okay, that's fine. It was a little difficult for me because I had never done counseling before, but I'm always up for the challenge. Even things that I haven't done before, I'm always up for the challenge of accomplishing something new that I've never been able to do before. So I was slowly got myself up into a rhythm of seeing 8 people per day. And I was doing this for a consistent amount of time. Then they say to me, oh, somebody quit at another location that we have. So we need you to temporarily work 2 days at that location, 3 days at your original location. I was a little hesitant, but I was fairly new to the position. So I was like, okay, I'll do this for this temporary amount of time. They told me a month, as a matter of fact. So I said, okay, I can cover there for a month. It's probably going to be a good look for me, and they're probably going to have a little lesser of an expectation of me because they know that I am covering that. Because if that person left without warning and without notice, they just didn't show up and no showed and never came back. So in my mind, I'm doing them a favor. So I'm still maintaining as much of my numbers as I can on a more limited schedule at my original location. And then I'm going to this other location and trying to salvage the relationships with all these people that were left high and dry. Because they needed somebody to go over there and basically make an excuse for why the guy left the job and say, hey, don't worry, we're not going to leave you alone here. I'm here and I'm going to be seeing you until we can get somebody else. So some of those people I was able to retain, some of those people I was not able to retain. Yeah, it's pretty overcast. It keeps going up and down because when I started this walk, it was pretty sunny. In the morning, it was overcast, but luckily it hasn't rained on me yet. Anyways, knock on wood. I didn't cast. So, yeah, I was able to retain some of those people that the other peer counselor had just abandoned. And I was able to keep most of my original people from the location that I was at. So I'm going back and forth. Mind you, the location I signed up to work at was 10 minutes away from my house. The location they had me driving to for the other 2 days was like 45 minutes going and about an hour and 15 to 20 minutes coming back. So now it's significantly more time to go and come from there. It's a significant more amount of gas, and the clientele, quite frankly, in that area, it was a rougher area than where I was. So there was a lot of factors going on. So after a little bit of time had gone by and they hadn't honored their promise of we're only going to be needing you to do this for 1 month, I asked for a sit-down conversation with my boss. Actually, not even my boss, with the person who originally hired me, the hiring manager. I had a conversation with that. 0.25 speed. And I said, hey, I know that you said that you want me to do this for a month's time. We have now reached a month. I said, it's a lot of strain on me. I helped y'all out. I went there when there was nobody to cover this position. You still don't have somebody. So if you expect me to keep going with this position here, I need something more. I need like a travel budget for the extra time and gas that I'm spending going there, because none of this is actually in my contract. And I was like, I need more in my salary to compensate for the fact that I'm helping y'all maintain in 2 clinics. That only sounds fair, right? That's when I learned a job will ask you to do things. And if you agree to do those things, now you're locked in. You agree to it. If at the time when they say to you, hey, I need you to do this, and this, and it's not in your contract, but you say, yes, I'm willing to do that. Now they're going to say, that is on you because that was your agreement. That's the point in time when you have to tell them, I'm only willing to do this if I receive this. And that goes away from the old mentality that people used to have, where they're like, a job is a job. You You have to do whatever it takes to maintain the job. This is where the shift has gone on in my mind. This is definitely where the shift has gone on in my mind. This is where it started, when I realized how much that particular place was using me, because I stayed at that spot for about 4 months of covering that other position in the other location. 4 months. And then I finally said, you know what? I'm giving y'all my 2 weeks, because you gave me a promise. You asked me to do something and gave me a promise of a time frame of how long I was going to have to do it. When I asked you for more money and more flexibility, you said to me, oh, you agreed, and it's part of the job description. It's one of our core values, flexibility and accommodation. And what they threw the book at me and told me, no, you have to stay there until we tell you that you don't have to stay here. And I'm like, I don't operate like that. Sorry. So I gave them my 2 weeks. They told me that they were having a hard time finding somebody to fill the position. That's what they said. So after I gave them my 2 weeks, 2 days later, I got into the office and there was a guy sitting in my chair. Hi, I'm so-and-so. I'm like, who is this guy? He's like, I'm the peer specialist. And I'm sitting here like, I'm the peer specialist? What do you mean I'm the peer specialist? I was not told that there's a peer specialist. I've been asking for a peer specialist to cover this location so I don't have to come here anymore. He said, oh yeah, I already did all the pre-boarding stuff like 2 months ago, and then they just gave me the call that I am the peer specialist. So I was like, ain't that some ish? Employers will always push for more than they need to see if you will do it. Yeah, for sure. I learned the hard way. You can't give them rope because they will keep doing it. They will. So you'll find, once you've been in enough different offices, and I'm not recommending this because I still don't recommend you jumping out of a company just to jump out. But truthfully, the reason why I know so much about what they do at such a pretty early age to know as much as I know is because of how many times I have left jobs and seen people doing different versions of the same thing in different offices. So basically, yeah, the guy came in there, and then the supervisor of the building comes and speaks to me and says, hey Mark, this is going to be the guy who's replacing you when your 2 weeks is up. So we know that you're an excellent employee. So what we want you to do is to just show him the ropes and let him know all the excellent work that you've done. And I'm like, for 4 months, I've been asking y'all for this guy or for somebody to replace me in this position. I give my 2 weeks, and then you find one person at that location, and then my original location, a lady showed up the next day. They gave me the same speech at the other spot. We want you to train her, and we want you to train him. They were both in the cut, clearly. They were just seeing how long they could stretch me doing it. And when I finally said, I'm not going to do it, I quit, all of a sudden, this position that was mysteriously super hard to fill was suddenly filled within days, within a weekend. So that was a huge lesson to me. That was the first one that I learned about the reward for loyalty. They don't reward you for loyalty. You have to force yourself to get your reward. And quite frankly, it seems like nowadays companies are willing to have people be expendable placeholders, even good employees. They used to say, oh, they don't let go of good employees just like that. But they do. they do let go of good employees because they're like, I will just keep plugging people into the position until we find another good one, use them for as long as we can, and then when they're all used up and they decide to leave, we go around the same cycle again, the same cycle again. So it's not that I don't want to find one place and stick in one place. I'm actually a huge stickler for consistency. I'm not somebody who likes bouncing around and moving around. It's so hard for me because that's how my life has always been, especially having a parent that always moved us. You know, here I am in this one part of Canada. Then I moved to this next part of Canada. Then we're North Carolina. Then all of a sudden we're Massachusetts. Then I'm back in Canada. Then I'm North Carolina. Then from North Carolina back to Massachusetts, New York, Michigan. I didn't like moving all the time because every move represented I had to make new friends. I had to get reacclimated with a new area. I had to learn what stores were around. You know, there's just a lot to moving that makes moving hard for me, and I did it a lot. So in my work environment, I value stability, but I have never actually been in a work environment that provided it for me. I think I had one, maybe two. I think I did have like a couple of work environments that did provide me some kind of stability, and they were positive work cultures also. But the issue was just that they didn't pay. They were very, very low-paying nonprofits that nobody living in this city could actually survive off of. So I had to leave. I had one that actually said, "Could you please give me this much?" which was less than I knew I would get at other companies, but more than what they actually pay for their position. And I was basically told, while I would love to give you that salary, like nobody's getting that salary here, so I'm sorry, bruh. My grandma was a good employee. He was let off in 2006. Wow. I always hate those stories where somebody was loyal to the company, stayed with the company for a long amount of time, and did good work and still got laid off. And that happened to a lot of people in 2020 also. I felt bad for those people who spent so many years with a company, and then to cut costs, they used COVID-19 as a convenient excuse to be like, this person is a fossil now, so they don't have a use here, and we're just going to cut them and maybe give them a severance package and let them go. When I was being laid off, they made me train I had to do that too. 28 years. Well, I didn't have 28 years, so that's a different type of thing. The funny thing is, I've always been told that I'm a bad employee everywhere that I've gone. I can think of, let's say that I've been at 10 different companies. It could be close to 10, I just can't think of the exact number. I could probably count. I started at Sears. Let's see, let me think of the on the books positions. I worked in a college cafeteria. Then from there, I worked in a hospital medical records department. I worked in Sears retail. Let's see. After that, I was back in school. I worked as a custodian. I did 2 factory jobs, that's 6. I did counseling center, insurance company, hospital where I work now. 10. Wow, 10. The 10th one was, about 12. Okay, I can think of 12 companies that I worked for. Hi, Cindy. I can think of 12 different companies that I worked for, and out of those 12, I think maybe 3 or 4 of them said that I was a good employee, and 8 of them, 7 or 8, it was, let's just say 60 to 70% of them said that I was a crappy employee. And I'll admit, at Sears, I wasn't a great employee at Sears because I just felt like the amount of running around that they wanted you to do for that minimum wage was just not worth it. And the way the boss spoke to me also was a reason why I was not going to give 100%. So I'll give you Sears. I might even give you the cafeteria. I'm not going to say I was the worst employee there, but I'll say I was an okay employee at the cafeteria. But anything that I have done since graduating from school has I've been a great employee at every other position. But great employees get rewarded with higher expectations and more work. So there was always a turning point at every single one of those spots where I was like, you know what? I'm consistently providing you this great work. And because of that, I think that my salary should go up. And those conversations were always like, oh, we're working on that. We're gonna get you more, but we don't have the funds right now. Or I agree with you, Mark, but if you work hard for another 6 months, we can come back to the table for another negotiation. I didn't realize that was just to buy them another 6 months. It wasn't because 6 months the conversation was going to be different. It was just like, we can get him to work hard for another 6 months. I didn't think people do that, but now I'm not so naive as I used to be. I feel like my days in New York are numbered as well. I have gotten to the end of my time here. Obviously, circumstances of my dad, losing my dad, and being here with my mom contribute to me being here right now. But I'm soon going to be considering an exit plan. I'm trying to see these other comments. I'm just doing temp work now to supplement, but it ain't enough. A merge means the people you were loyal to are no longer in charge. Yeah, that's true. That happens too. That happens too. You get people that you are loyal to. I was actually part of a company merge. I was part of a company merge when I first worked at a counseling center. I wouldn't even call it a merge. I would call it an acquisition because they were going bankrupt. And then another company that had money came in and bought that company. But they didn't lay off all the employees, but they gave them some crazy stipulations where they were like, the contracts that you had with your current company are void. We can pay those out for the rest of the year. Or if you want to stay, we can renegotiate and give you these lesser contracts. Like, I knew this one person there that was receiving $65,000 and had pretty good benefits. And then the company was like, we'll give you a new contract where we offer you $40,000 and you get no benefits and you have 2 weeks to decide. And I was like, man, these people do you dirty. So that's one thing I'm with Gen Z on. I would love, in theory, it's an amazing thing to be able to clock in and be like, this is where I'm going to stay for 30 to 40 years. And then you retire there and you're like, you know what? I feel great about being able to stay loyal to this company. But for the most part, loyalty does not have that reward when it comes to work. You, Ma, the tank top colors. I don't even pay attention to Ma and Cass's comments because they're never about the topic. I'm like, okay, let's check the comments. Mark's chest, Mark's sunglasses, the colors of the tank top. Anyways, yeah, so those are my thoughts about that. I wish, like I told the physician's wife, I told her I wish I could stay in a company for 30 years, however many years, and feel good about that and feel and get rewarded for all my hard work and efforts. But it doesn't seem like companies are built that way nowadays. So you're still not talking about the topic. Literally, you still have said nothing about the topic. That's the point. Yeah, so I would love to be able to stay in a company and then every year they're like, Mark, we've done an evaluation of your work, your productivity, your attitude, and everything that you bring to the table. We value you, so we are offering you this extra salary or this extra benefit or whatever it is, more days off. I don't know. I've never had a company do that. Anytime that I've gotten something more from the company, aside from like a annual, they give everybody in the company a certain percentage of raise. I have gotten that, which is pennies on the dollar. But no, y'all don't stay on topic, so I'm used to that by now. That's why I usually go through most of the important parts of what I'm saying before I read the comments. When it's like Big Brother, I don't care. I can read random comments. But when it's like a topic I have in my head that I'm trying to get through, I'll get through as much of the topic as I can. But I still try to read them anyways, just for the fact that I appreciate that you guys jump on here. Even if the topics that you're having are side topics. I'm listening. Thank you, Sydney. So in a perfect world, that's the way that it would happen, but it has not happened that way for me. I would love to know from anyone watching if it has ever happened for you where you've been able to stick with some place for a significant number of years. The longest I've ever been with one company is, 5 years? And 5 years felt like a lot because of the way the experience was for me. It was depressing. And I felt like, and they made it seem like I was just being really difficult. And at the time, I did take that to heart. Because when you're early on in a career, the things people say can be a little bit more damaging for you. Now, there's nothing they can say to me that changes the way that I feel about myself. I give myself basically self-evaluations, not on paper. I don't go on paper and write down how well I'm doing, even though I have to give self-evaluations at the end of the year for the last few jobs I've been in. But I give myself a personal evaluation. I don't just sit here and I'm like, I'm the best thing since sliced bread. I actually think about the level of work that I have given to this company. Could I have done better? What could I have done better? And also I do say, what have I done in comparison to my counterparts? I pay attention to that too. Because remember when you were in school and the teacher was like, I grade on the curve? I know that that's not great work advice to give to somebody, to work based on a curve. But the truth of the matter is, why are you going to be the one who's doing significantly more work than anyone else, but still getting the same salary as the rest of your coworkers? What's the point? I'm not moving the needle unless you're moving the needle. That's it. Yeah, I have the worst employee mindset ever, but there's reasons for it. Oh, yours was 5 years also? Yeah, I mean, 5 years. I mean, I've spoken to people who are like, I'm on my 12th year, I'm 15 years deep, I'm 18 years in. And with the type of complaints they're giving me about the job, I'm like, kudos to you, but I don't know how you do it. My government teacher graded on a curve. You don't really get rewarded for caring about your job. That's the problem that I've seen. There's no real reward for caring about your job. To do things correct under parameters. Thanks for whoever gave those likes. I have found those employees that don't care. You know what? I said this about my job as a care manager. The people who are the best at my particular field. How do I swipe this off? The people who are best at my particular field are the ones that care the least about the patients. I don't care what anyone says. I'm not going to change my opinion on that because my job involves daunting amount of paperwork. And there's no way that you can actually give the clients the time and attention and care that they require if you're doing this immaculate paperwork. Like, I've seen people who will write the Declaration of Independence for each client, and I'm like, how did you have time to write something that long and that detailed, and also spend enough time with them for them to feel like they were seen and heard? And the answer is they didn't. They spent a little bit of time with them. They got some bare bones facts about what they need, like the minimum of what they need, and then they know how to make the notes look immaculate so that when everybody reads it on paper, it looks good. Because ultimately, the only people who knows what's going on at the job are the people who are actually doing the job. I don't just mean every employee, because some employees are HR, some employees are clinical directors, some employees are CFO, some employees are whatever. There's so many different positions that you could do. But the people who are doing the operations, which are most of what it seems like we are doing, operations, like the day-to-day stuff that they need to get the revenue, we're the ones who actually know how the job operates. So somebody could look fantastic on paper when the higher-ups have their meetings and they look on paper and it's like, oh, Mark's notes aren't good enough. But if you actually go and speak to the people that I'm talking to, they're like, I needed this, Mark helped me get this. One day I came in and I was having some kind of emotional breakdown. Mark sat in there with me for an hour and had a conversation with me, talked me off the ledge. But that doesn't matter on paper, because on paper they just want to see all these boxes checked so that when they get audited or when they have to show their work, they can say, oh, this person did this and this and this. And I've had the thing of taking over a case for somebody else, and when I read through the case, because we have to like go through the case and see all the previous work that the person has done to catch up, to be a little bit informed before we talk to our new person. And I've done that, and then I've actually met with the person and they're like, I don't even remember that person. I remember somebody would pop in and talk to me for like 2 minutes, ask me a couple questions, and then leave. And I'm like, man, I'm gonna read these and then I'm done. I'm gonna be watching this Knicks Celtics. Why did I say Knicks Celtics? Knicks Pacers game 7. Same job since 2016. I work for an insurance firm, 9 to 5, right out of college. Yeah, I did total opposite of professional work. I finished college in 2010, and I didn't get that counseling job until 2018, and that was a change of career. So I'm still not doing anything related to my field, and I think partially because I got a business degree, it's like that's the reason why I pay attention to the business sides of things. Like, I pay attention to how much they're billing for my visits. compared to the amount of money I'm getting in my salary, and like so many things just don't look right for me. That's how employees seem to do it now. I didn't always understand that. I thought I'd be rewarded. Yeah, they don't reward you. Their reward is to sit in the back rooms where you can't hear them. You know what? One of these days, I'm gonna end up telling an employer, compliments don't pay bills. I don't want your compliments. Don't give me your compliments. Give me something that can help me pay my bills better. That's Your compliment means nothing. Because I've gotten people that said, "You're the greatest, Mark. I love the work that you do. I don't know what we do without you." And I'm like, what does that mean? That means nothing. All right, y'all. I'm topping off. Thanks for joining me. I appreciate everybody who joins me and participates in my secret lives. That's what the Discord calls them. Started because of Lisa, who's not even here. And now everyone else says it more than her. Thanks, Lisa. But thanks for joining my secret live. There's something I was going to say. Oh, yeah. We are, as of today, 2 months away from Big Brother starting. So I'm excited for Big Brother to come back. I'll be covering that on my other channel. But this season is the most active that I've actually been on my music and mental health channel. And quite honestly, I've really liked this because mental health issues are something that I deal with every single day of my life. Whereas a Big Brother house could go for 3 months. And then after the Big Brother house is done, I still have these issues. A challenge house can go for a couple months. After it's done, I'm still dealing with this issue. I prefer this channel to that. Surprisingly, it might sound surprising for me to say that because obviously, when a season is starting, people like seeing recaps. But me personally, I like these a lot better. But I'm still going to be doing both. I'm going to try to do my challenge recap tonight because if it gets to Wednesday, it's just not happening. But I did have a few notes on it and a few things in mind. So I do want to talk about the challenge. I'm hopefully going to do that tonight, this evening, probably later this evening. Late this evening. I would probably say don't expect it before 9 or 10 Eastern. All right, y'all. Thanks for joining again. And I'll talk to you soon.